On the 12th of July, 2013, a horrifying discovery shattered the calm of Montana. A body lay face down at the bottom of a 300-foot cliff. The unfortunate victim was none other than two-year-old Cody Johnson, who had celebrated his wedding just 8 days earlier. That brief happiness was brutally cut short, and the chilling mysteries behind Cody's death still linger. Stay with us until the end of the video as we uncover the full story. Cody was born in San Jose, California, and was raised by his mother, Sherry, after his parents' divorce. Being her only child, the two shared a remarkably close relationship, leaning on each other for support. Eventually, Sherry decided to leave California entirely, seeking a new start for both of them in the wide-open spaces of Montana. Cody quickly embraced life there. Friends described him as funny, upbeat, and always eager to make others laugh. He thrived on outdoor activities, fishing, shooting, and long walks through the countryside. His biggest passion, however, was cars. He loved restoring and racing them with his friends after school. When he got a job working on custom-built vehicles with his close friend Cameron as his boss, it felt like the perfect fit for his interests and skills. Even as his career and hobbies kept him busy, Cody often said he wanted something more, a serious relationship, and the chance to start a family in Montana. That wish came true in 2011 when he met Jordan Graham. Jordan was quiet, shy, and far more reserved than Cody. She rarely opened up to new people, but with Cody, she eventually shared his playful sense of humor, and the two seemed to complement each other perfectly. They spent much of their free time together outdoors, traveling and hiking the scenic trails of Glacier National Park, which quickly became a favorite spot for the couple. Jordan loved children, often babysitting for friends, and she openly hoped to have a family of her own one day. Growing up in a devout household, she followed strict religious rules, including no sex before marriage, which Cody accepted without hesitation as his feelings for her deepened. He told his mother he had finally found the person he wanted to spend the rest of his life with. After a year of dating, in December 2012, Jordan made a special announcement on social media, confirming the seriousness of their relationship. After 6 months of careful planning, Jordan and Cody were married on the 29th of June, 2013. The ceremony seemed to capture the essence of the young couple perfectly. It was held outdoors, surrounded by natural beauty, and included a deeply personal touch. The pair had even written their own song for their first dance. Jordan wept uncontrollably as she walked down the aisle, keeping her eyes to the ground rather than meeting Cody's gaze. For someone as introverted as her, this behavior did not raise immediate concern. Cody, on the other hand, could not stop smiling, radiating happiness throughout the day. The event featured heartfelt speeches from family and friends, and for all who attended, it was a beautiful and emotional occasion. Once the wedding celebrations ended, the couple chose to settle into their first home rather than travel for a honeymoon. They spent their time off decorating and fixing up the house, creating their shared space together. Cody had taken a week off work, planning to return on the 8th of July. On Sunday, the 7th of July, Cody had initially arranged to go kayaking with his father-in-law, Stephen, but he called to cancel, explaining that Jordan had a surprise for him. He also canceled a round of golf with a friend for the same reason. That day, the couple attended an afternoon church service, went to a nearby lake, then returned to church again before ending the evening with a late dinner at Dairy Queen alongside friends. After dinner, they left together and headed home. The following morning, the 8th of July, Cody's vacation had ended, and he was expected at work early. Known for his punctuality and dedication, Cody's failure to appear immediately raised concern. His boss and close friend, Cameron, decided to check on him. Arriving at the couple's house, he noticed it was empty. There were no signs of a break-in, no overturned furniture, and nothing appeared stolen or out of place. In the garage, he saw Cody's phone, something Cody was never without. Alarmed, Cameron quickly contacted authorities and filed a missing persons report. The first person detectives needed to speak with was Cody's wife, Jordan. She explained that on the drive home from Dairy Queen, Cody had taken a phone call that lasted roughly 30 minutes. She did not know who he was speaking with, but she noticed that he seemed visibly tense and distracted during the conversation. When they finally pulled into their driveway, Jordan realized that her phone battery was nearly dead and that she had left her charger at work. She told officers she got back into the car to retrieve it, leaving Cody in the garage. Not long after, Jordan received a text message from Cody saying he was going to take a drive with someone. When she returned home, she saw him leaving in a dark-colored car with Washington state license plates. According to her, this did not immediately alarm her. Cody was well known for his love of cars, and he often went for spontaneous drives or met with new friends to race, sometimes late into the night. Jordan said she hesitated to report him missing right away, fearing that if he returned, he might be upset that she had overreacted. As concern grew, Cody and Jordan's friends began rallying to help. They attempted to access Cody's social media accounts to search for any signs of where he might have gone. Investigators also pulled Cody's phone records and discovered that a Washington-based number had indeed called him around the time Jordan had described. Given her recollection of the Washington license plates, it seemed like a promising lead. The number was traced to a man named Jose, who told police he had called Cody to discuss some tools he had borrowed. He recalled nothing unusual about their conversation, and Cody had not sounded distressed. With a solid alibi, Jose was cleared, and detectives concluded that the timing and the license plates were an unusual but coincidental link. Meanwhile, the search for Cody intensified. Family and friends scoured the area day and night, doing everything they could think of to bring him home. 3 days had passed since Cody was last seen, and investigators still had no concrete leads. Jordan had been in and out of the police station repeatedly, answering an array of questions. Detectives began to notice troubling inconsistencies in her statements. At different times, she offered slightly different explanations, sometimes saying Cody had stepped out to make a phone call, other times that he texted her saying he was leaving for a drive, and at one point that he was meeting friends from out of town. She even added that whenever those friends visited, Cody liked to take them to Glacier National Park. Officers pressed her for clarity, pointing out that her answers conflicted with information they had already gathered. Jordan maintained that she did not know who Cody was with, nor exactly where he might have gone, and insisted that they had not argued that night. The inconsistencies, however, left detectives increasingly concerned that she was withholding the full truth. Then, in a startling development, Jordan returned to the station with her mother, carrying an email she said she had just received. The sender identified himself as Carmen Tony. The message was short and chilling. There was no need to look for Cody anymore because he was gone, and the search should be called off. The email claimed that Cody had gone hiking with friends that night and had fallen off a cliff. It sent a shock through everyone involved. If the message was true, there might still be a chance to rescue him, but if false, it was a cruel distraction. Jordan mentioned that she did know a man named Tony S. who worked with Cody. Investigators quickly located him and asked him to come in for an interview. Tony was cooperative, explaining that he had not seen or spoken to Cody recently and that he had never used any email address linked to Carmen Tony. He willingly handed over his phone and computer records, clearing himself of any involvement. With the email's credibility collapsing, detectives found themselves back at square one. They subpoenaed Google for information on the account and began gathering data from both Cody's and Jordan's phones, hoping digital evidence could provide the lead they desperately needed. The contents of the email suggested that Cody had fallen from a cliff, prompting Jordan to organize her own search party. Together with friends, she drove into the rugged terrain of Glacier National Park, navigating long, winding, and narrow roads. The park's immense size meant that if Cody was somewhere within its boundaries, the search could stretch on for weeks. The following day, they returned, but Jordan's demeanor had changed. She appeared focused, as if she were on a mission. Ignoring multiple side roads and cliff edges along the way, any of which could have been the site of an accident, she insisted on heading to a particular spot. Jordan told her friends that Cody had wanted to see this place before he died and claimed that the Holy Spirit was guiding her there. Eventually, she stopped abruptly near a location known as the Loop Trail. Beyond the roadside barrier was a sheer drop of roughly 300 feet, littered with jagged rocks and trees. Despite the danger, Jordan climbed over the wall and moved toward the edge. Peering down, she shouted that she could see someone below in the water. Moments later, she began yelling repeatedly that she knew it was Cody. The search party immediately alerted park rangers. But with night falling and the terrain too hazardous to navigate, the recovery effort had to wait until morning. At 8 a.m. on the 12th of July, 2013, the search for Cody Johnson came to a heartbreaking conclusion. Rangers descended the steep cliff using ropes secured to nearby trees. On the way down, they found a single blue sneaker matching the pair Cody had worn the day he disappeared. Reaching the bottom, they discovered his body lying face down in shallow water near a waterfall. Close to the body was a small piece of black cloth, and notably, Cody was no longer wearing his wedding ring. As word spread that Cody's body had been found, his friends and family struggled to comprehend why he would have been on that cliffside at night. His friend Eddie reflected that while Cody enjoyed scenic walks in Glacier National Park, he always stayed on marked paths and well-protected tourist routes. Heights made him uncomfortable. He avoided exposed edges and never climbed over safety barriers. Eddie even recalled a time Cody could not bring himself to climb a ladder to replace a light bulb for his mother because of how uneasy he felt with heights. The idea of him venturing onto a steep, unguarded cliff in the dark seemed almost impossible. Not long after the discovery, Jordan posted a wedding photo on Instagram. Her caption read like a heartfelt farewell, expressing that she missed Cody deeply, that he would live on in her heart forever, and that he was now her angel watching over her. To the outside world, it sounded like a grieving widow speaking to her lost husband. 2 weeks passed, and while police were still pursuing leads on the mysterious Carmen Tony email, Cody's funeral took place. Observers noted Jordan's behavior throughout the service. She spent much of the ceremony looking down at her phone, showing little visible emotion. While some could interpret this as her way of coping or compartmentalizing grief, others found it jarringly detached. Her maid of honor and closest friend, Kimberly, found it troubling enough to act. Soon after, Kimberly walked into the police station and requested to speak with investigators. She presented a series of text messages from Jordan, sent in the weeks leading up to and shortly after the wedding. The messages painted a different picture of the marriage. Jordan had seemed more thrilled about planning the ceremony than about the reality of being married. Friends and family would later remark that Cody had always been far more in love with Jordan than she had ever been with him, a detail that now took on a new and unsettling significance. Kimberly told investigators that in the weeks surrounding the wedding, Jordan repeatedly questioned whether she was making the right choice. Others later confirmed that Jordan appeared nervous about married life and unsure about committing to Cody. The very night after the wedding, Jordan sent Kimberly a message admitting, "I don't know if all this was the right thing to do. So much happened last night. I just don't know." When Kimberly asked if she meant the wedding reception or the wedding night, Jordan clarified that she meant being married and the events after the ceremony. When pressed for details, Jordan said she would rather discuss it in person than over text. As the days passed, Jordan's messages continued to reflect deep discomfort. In one, she referenced using her menstrual cycle as an excuse to avoid intimacy and wrote that she freaking hoped it worked, adding that if she was forced into anything, she would freak out. These messages revealed her growing anxiety and reluctance toward the marriage she had just entered. On the evening of the 7th of July, shortly after leaving Dairy Queen with Cody, Jordan texted Kimberly again, saying she wanted to have an honest conversation with him about how she truly felt. Kimberly responded with supportive words, offering positivity and prayers for the couple. Then, just before 9 p.m., Jordan sent a chilling follow-up. "But dead serious, if you don't hear from me at all again tonight, something happened." Later that night, Jordan arrived at Kimberly's doorstep and told her that the discussion with Cody had not gone well. According to Jordan, Cody had become angry, and she left the house to go to her brother's. When Kimberly combined this with other troubling details, the fact that Jordan seemed to know exactly where to find Cody's body, Her earlier comment about Cody wanting to see that spot before he died, and her failure to report him missing, it all felt disturbingly wrong. Kimberly said the realization left her with a sickening feeling and a gut certainty that Jordan had something to do with Cody's death, even if she did not yet know the full how or why. Detectives, who already harbored doubts due to Jordan's shifting stories, now had hard evidence that reinforced their suspicions. Kimberly's testimony and the text messages were a critical turning point in the investigation. The investigation reached a turning point when the IP address from the Carmen Tony email came back. It traced directly to Jordan's stepfather's home, making it clear the email had been created and sent from there. At the same time, phone records revealed that Jordan had lied about her movements the night Cody disappeared. She had claimed they separated after he drove off, yet data showed both phones were together inside Glacier National Park at 9:17 p.m. Using that time frame, police reviewed CCTV footage from the park entrance and captured Cody's car driving in with both of them inside. Detectives no longer pursued the phantom Carmen Tony. Their focus had shifted entirely to Jordan Graham. Jordan was summoned to the station to finally tell investigators the truth. After prolonged questioning, she broke down and admitted what had happened that night. She explained that she had begun talking to Cody about her doubts and unhappiness in the marriage, and the conversation escalated into an argument. Cody reportedly suggested that if this was how she truly felt, they should annul the marriage. Jordan, however, admitted she was afraid of the social and personal embarrassment that would come from divorcing only 8 days after their wedding. She recounted that they drove into Glacier National Park and set out on a trail. At some point, they crossed a small bridge and even climbed over the retaining wall into a dangerous area near the cliff. The argument continued to intensify. Jordan described feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, angry, and anxious all at once. She claimed that during the confrontation, Cody reached for her arm and her jacket. In what she described as an act of self-defense and panic, she pushed him away. That single push sent Cody over the edge of the cliff. Jordan insisted that there had been no plan to kill him, calling it an impulsive act driven by the heat of the moment. She said she fled the scene immediately, went home, and then went to her brother's house, leaving Cody where he had fallen. To investigators, her account revealed a fatal combination of rage and fear, and despite her claims of a spontaneous act, the push had resulted in Cody's death. Investigators remained unconvinced by Jordan's version of events. They questioned why, after the fatal fall, she chose to run home and use her stepfather's computer to send a fake email instead of seeking immediate help. They also struggled to reconcile her claims with Cody's well-known fear of heights. For anyone, climbing over a safety wall in the pitch black, high above a 300-foot drop, would be risky. For Cody, timid even on ladders, the idea that he would do so while wearing a blindfold seemed almost impossible. As the case gained national attention, Jordan Lynn Graham was officially charged with murder just 8 days after the wedding. She was initially arrested on charges of second-degree murder and making false statements to authorities. A federal judge released her on home detention and required a full mental health evaluation while awaiting arraignment. Friends and family of Cody expressed mixed emotions, relief that the legal system was finally moving in the right direction, but deep sorrow knowing that nothing could replace the person they had lost. Justice will be served, some said, though they emphasized that the hole left in their lives could never truly be filled. Prosecutors soon escalated the case. What began as a second-degree murder charge was upgraded by a grand jury to premeditated first-degree murder, reflecting the belief that the act had not been a simple moment of impulse. Longtime friends Levi and Latney Blaisdell, who had known Jordan since childhood and even introduced the couple, recalled troubling memories from the wedding. They remembered her crying hysterically before reaching the altar, showing no joy at the moment she was about to be married. After Cody's death, she displayed no visible grief and continued life as if nothing had changed. To those who knew her, the lack of emotion only deepened the suspicion that she had been involved from the very beginning. As Jordan Graham's trial commenced, her defense team immediately focused on portraying Cody Johnson's death as an accident. They argued that the incident occurred during the heat of a sudden argument and should amount to second-degree murder rather than premeditated first-degree murder. The prosecution, however, presented a very different narrative. They argued that the evidence pointed unmistakably to premeditation. Jordan had allegedly lured Cody to Glacier National Park by promising him a surprise, and his body was later discovered near a small piece of black cloth that could have been used as a blindfold. This, combined with phone records showing their joint presence in the park, the creation of the fake Carmen Tony email, her failure to notify anyone or report him missing, and her almost complete lack of emotion afterward, painted a portrait of someone who planned the act and then tried to mislead investigators. On the second day of the trial, the prosecution delivered a critical blow to the defense. Jurors were shown video recordings of Jordan's police interviews, where she was repeatedly caught lying and evading the truth. Sergeant Chad Zimmerman could be heard telling her on camera that he felt she was not being 100% honest. Her own 16-year-old brother testified, breaking down in tears as he recounted the moment Jordan brought him to the cliff where Cody's body lay. He explained that she first told one version of events, was urged to tell the truth, and then changed her story again, stacking lies upon lies to cover her tracks. Her matron of honor and best friend, Kim Martinez, also testified that Jordan had told her in the days before Cody's death that he had a bad temper and would grab her. Claims Cody's friends and loved ones vehemently denied, calling them yet another fabrication. To the courtroom, it became clear that Jordan Graham had repeatedly manipulated those closest to her, leaving a trail of deceit that now stood as evidence of her calculated actions. On the 12th of December, 2013, just 4 days into her trial, Jordan Graham's legal strategy took a stunning turn. The two-year-old newlywed, who had walked into court a free woman, left in handcuffs. In a sudden reversal, she pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. Standing before the judge, Jordan admitted that her actions on the cliff at Glacier National Park were reckless. She said she had just pushed, claiming she had not been thinking about where they were. Her guilty plea came as part of a deal offered by prosecutors. In exchange for dropping the charges of premeditated first-degree murder and lying to federal authorities, Jordan would accept a 30-year federal prison sentence with no possibility of early parole. When she uttered the word guilty, Cody's mother wept quietly in the courtroom, while Jordan's own parents sat in silence as U.S. Marshals led their daughter away. The judge remarked that only Jordan truly knew what had happened on that cliff, and he doubted she had been entirely truthful. A later attempt by Jordan to withdraw her plea was denied. For those who loved Cody Johnson, the pain remains immeasurable. Friends and family struggle to understand how the marriage he cherished so deeply spiraled into tragedy just 8 days after the wedding. They described Cody as a vibrant, affectionate young man who brought joy to everyone around him. A man who would have walked away from the marriage if it meant Jordan's happiness. For his mother, Sherry, losing her only child and never fully knowing why remains a lifelong wound. This case is a haunting reminder of how love, trust, and silence can collide with devastating consequences. Cody's life was full of promise, and his memory now serves as both a warning and a legacy of kindness that lives on in those who knew him. If this story moved you, consider liking this video, subscribing to our channel, and exploring more true crime stories that reveal the fragile line between love and tragedy. Your support helps us bring you more in-depth, real-life cases that deserve to be remembered.